Welcome to the online sessions for the video practicals of the manufacturing processes. In today's video, we will be concentrating on the practical, that is the different parts of the lathe machine. So what will be our aim? To study the different parts of the lathe machine. Because in a manufacturing processes, if you want to get any of the workpiece to any of the shape, then by the help of the lathe machine we can give its shape. So lathe machine is one of the most important machine for the manufacturing processes. So for that thing we will be studying the different parts which are there in the lathe machine. So now what will be the apparatus? As we all know that the lathe machine, this is the lathe machine on which we will be seeing all the different parts. In this lecture only, first we will be studying from the schematic diagram which are the different parts of the lathe machine, and then we will be going on a real lathe machine, and then I will be teaching you that which are the different parts of that lathe machine. So apparatus, only one thing which we require, that is known as an lathe machine. So now comes the principle. Which is the principle on which this lathe machine works? So the lathe machine basically works on the principle that lathe holds the workpiece between the support, between the rigidity of the headstock, and then it is allowed, the workpiece is allowed to rotate at a very high speed. So this is the first thing what we are doing. We are taking the workpiece, holding it in the headstock in any of the chuck, and then rotating at a very high speed. Next comes the cutting tool. We are adjusting the cutting tool according to the shape which we required. So for that shape we will be adjusting the tool and we will be placing the tool. There are two types of the parts in which we can place the tool. That is, first one tailstock, second one carriage. Then tool is made to move. Now the movement of the tool is done. Why? Because your workpiece will be rotating at a fixed portion, fixed path it will be rotating. So what we will be doing? We will be moving tool in either perpendicular, parallel, or in the cross way. We will be moving the tool towards the workpiece. So what is the main function? The main function of the lathe is to remove the metal from the workpiece so that we can get the shape which we required. And how does it form? The material is removed in the form of the chips. So in the form of the chips we will be removing the material. So the basic principle goes like this. The workpiece will be rotating at its own axis, and then we will be adjusting the tool according to our requirement and the shape which we want. From that way we will be moving our tool. So now let us see the schematic diagram of the different parts of the lathe machine. So starting with the first one, if we go for the first one, you can see there is a bed which is located over here. The bed is the thing on which the whole load of the lathe is there, and the bed will also absorb the vibrations. So this will be the bed which is made up of the grey cast iron material. Second comes the headstock. Headstock here, headstock is the only part which generates the power, and from that power what we will be doing? From headstock there is chuck which is located. In this chuck there is a grip is there, 3-jaw, 4-jaw chuck. In between the jaws we will be placing our workpiece. So in this chuck we will be placing our workpiece over here, and this headstock will allow the power, and this chuck will move at a very high speed. As in the principle we have studied that the inner headstock workpiece is kept and workpiece is rotated at a very high speed. Next comes the tailstock. Tailstock, it is a movable part. Two reasons or the two main functions of the tailstock is there. First one, if your workpiece is too large, then for giving the support we can use the tailstock. And the second one, to hold the tool for certain operation of the lathe we are using this tailstock. It can be moved in this forward and backward direction. Fourth main thing which comes, that is the tool post, compound rest. All this thing is known as a carriage. So you can see over here this carriage. What is this carriage? The carriage is having the movement of the tool. Either you can slide it in any of the way, you can take the tool and you can place the tool. Majorly the tool is fixed in this carriage. Next comes the lead screw. What is this lead screw? Lead screw is nothing but what? To give the threading operation and to give the semi-automation in the lathe machine, this lead screw is there. So these are the different parts. Now this big wheel is used to move the lathe in this direction. Is used to move the lathe in this way. The small wheel over here which is used to move lathe in perpendicular direction. And the last one, this motion is given in the cross direction. So these are the different motions which can be given to the lathe. And now we will be seeing these different parts of the lathe in the actual lathe machine.
Chal.
So now we will be studying the different parts of the lathe on this particular lathe machine. As we have seen in the presentation that which are the different main types of the parts of the lathe machine. Now we will be seeing on a particular lathe machine which are its different parts. Starting with our first one, that is known as the bed of the lathe. This is your bed of the lathe, which is taking all the load of this lathe machine by it. So lathe bed is always made up of cast iron because it has the capacity to absorb vibration, and this lathe is in the working condition, maximum amount of vibrations are there, and to absorb that vibration and to take the load, this is made up of the cast iron. So this is our first part, that is known as the bed of the lathe. Now comes the second part. Second main part, that is our head stock. This is your head stock. In that head stock, you can see over here, there is a chuck located over here. What is this chuck? Basically chuck, this is your 3-jaw chuck. There are many types of the jaws, 3-jaw or the 4-jaw, collet chuck, air chuck, different types of the chuck are there. This is the 3-jaw chuck. Here your workpiece is gripped between these 3 jaws and it is placed over here. So this jaw, this particular chuck in the headstock is given the power by this mechanism, cone and pulley mechanism. You can see there is a cone and pulley mechanism over there. So here whenever the power is applied, the motor will start motion and this motor will give the power to this belt, and this belt will help to move this particular thing. This belt will give the power to the chuck, and this chuck will rotate your workpiece at a very high speed. So this is why, and by changing this thing, by changing this particular belt, we can adjust the total speed of this particular lathe. Third part comes the tail stroke. This tail stroke, it is basically a movement. It can be moved in the further and backward direction manually. And here you can place your tool over here, or you can go for the support of the workpiece. If your workpiece is too large, then for the supporting also it can be used. So basically this is the thing. So for adjustment you can see over here, the sleeve will come out and it will go. So this is your third part, that is known as an tail stroke. Fourth major part which comes, that is this carriage. This is the carriage in which we will be placing our tool. In certain cases we will be placing in the tool tail stroke. In many of the major of the cases, the operations which we will be performing, we will be keeping our tool over here, and then we can adjust it with this particular. So these are the basic 4 major parts for this lathe machine. Now the fifth comes, that is known as a lead screw. That is your lead screw. Which is the lead screw? You can see over here, this lead screw is there. For the semi-automatic motion, for threading purpose, we will be using this particular lead screw. And now we will be going that how does we can move, because we are knowing that your primary motion, your workpiece will be only moving at a particular fixed path. It will not move in to and fro direction. On a particular point only it will move. So for that reason, what we will be doing, we will be moving our tool for the cutting action, as we have seen our principle. So the movement of the tool can be done in the 3 ways. You can see over here the smaller wheel which is used to see, you can go for the perpendicular motion. It is moving in the forward direction. So in a perpendicular motion you can go, or by moving this wheel you can give the perpendicular thing motion. Now comes the longitudinal motion, or you can say parallel motion can be given by this bigger wheel. You can see the whole tool post will be moving with it. And if you want to give the cross slide by moving it, you can see only the top portion is moving in the further direction. This thing, this small wheel is used for the taper turning operation. And this is how the whole basic mechanism is given over here. There is also one thing which you have studied, that is the tumbler mechanism. The tumbler mechanism can be seen over here. This is the tumbler mechanism. You can see if your lathe is in the rest position, these two are parallel. By moving it up and down, what will happen? You can give the motion towards the forward and backward motion will be there. So this is how, these are the major parts of the lathe, and this is how we can go for the different operations can be performed on this lathe machine. Okay, so this was the video about your different parts of the lathe machine.